Is it working? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you feel me? So, just as I started, the camera froze, and I just rebooted this damn computer. I'm frustrated with this computer lately. Anyway, welcome everybody. Anyone who's watching the replay, welcome to the second Video Game Collection 2022 live stream update. This is everything that I own currently for the Sega Mark III, the Nintendo Famicom, the Sega Master System, and the Nintendo Famicom Disk System. Every couple of years I'm thinking I'm going to do live streams like this to update my collection online so there's a visual record just in case something happens. Like, there's a fire or get robbed or something. So everyone can see this is I owned them. They were in my hands. They were mine. They were here. Everything on the internet is real. I'm not doing these things to brag. It's to have more content for the channel, obviously. But like I said, it's also for a visual record of my collection. And it's fun to chit-chat with fellow gamers and my YouTube pals. So, yeah, last week seemed to go pretty well. Did all of my Atari 2600 and Television, ColecoVision, and Vectrex games. Had my friend Brian, that I haven't talked to in probably 10 years, show up. I hope he shows up tonight, too. I know Peter's probably here. How's it going, Brack? My Brack? So, shall we get into it? Sorry for being a little bit late, again. Computer issues. That's why I reboot the computer every time I do one of these streams so that the camera does not freeze up on me and it froze up on me right off the bat. Phooey on you. Anyway, so shall we get into it? I've said that twice now. I don't know why I'm delaying. Whatever. Cheers to y'all. I'm going to take a little drinky drink to wet the whistle before I start chit-chatting for 4.5 freaking hours again. So, when it comes to the Sega Mark III, which is the Japanese version of the Sega Master System, I only have one game. So, don't have a whole lot to talk about when it comes to that console, sadly. Wish I had more, but most of these games are in Japanese. I'm not sure if there's translation patches out there. I'm pretty sure some of the games that I would love for the Master System would actually be cheaper if I were to get the Japanese version. I'm pretty sure that, Phantasy Star is cheaper in Japan than it is over here. But there's other games that I would absolutely love to get. But, not really high on my list. Don't get me wrong, I love the Master System, and I would love to collect for both consoles, but space is an issue, so is money. So I got to pick and choose. Except for this one game that I have for the Mark III. And that is, let me just make sure I got the name right. Is it even listed under the Mark III in my app? Let me check real quick. Yeah, it is. Okay, so the one game I have for the Sega Mark III is Hakuto no Ken. And if you know me, one of my goals is to get all of the games in the Hakuto no Ken series, also known on our side of the ocean as Fist of the North Star. That was a manga series that I really got obsessed with back in the late 80s, early 90s. A comic book shop had opened up in my hometown, and they had a lot of interesting comics. It wasn't like going to the grocery store and having to deal with all of the mainstream comics that you would normally find there back in like the 80s. The Captain Americas and, the Green Lanterns and the Batmans and Supermans and whatnot. The comic shop had a lot of import stuff too, and a lot of like indie brands, indie labels and stuff. It was really cool, and it kind of turned me on to a lot of different things. And one of the things I latched onto was there were Hakudo no Ken, or Fist of the North Star comic books at this place. And convinced my parents to buy a couple of them, and I became obsessed. Found out there was a movie that came out in Japan. Found the anime of that over here. Got obsessed with that. Video games, all of a sudden, yes, yes, yes. So I still love Hakudo no Ken, Fist of the North Star, so had to have the Japanese version of this game, which on our shores was known as Black Belt. So the whole idea behind Hakudo no Ken, what's up, Matt? How's it going? Welcome. I don't think you've been in one of my streams before. That's awesome. Yeah, the whole thing about Fist of the North Star, it's a post-apocalyptic story. There's like scattered survivors. A bunch of them are schooled in these really crazy martial arts techniques, some of which poke somebody in the ribs and their freaking head blows up kind of thing. And the game for the Mark III reflected that pretty much. So you would punch somebody and you would see their head go bloop, 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 and pop, and it would spray pixels all over the place. Apparently that was too violent for the US, so when this got sent over here for the Master System as Black Belt, they toned it down, took out all of the Fist of the North Star characters, and just kind of made the main character a generic dude in a white karate gi kind of thing. So, yeah, I know. I haven't seen you since then. Yeah, that was yeah, seriously. What's up, Dan B? How's it going? So I absolutely had to get the uncut version. And it's the exact same game as Black Belt. It's just different character models and a little bit of gore. I just think the coolest thing is, compared to what a Master System cartridge looks like, a Mark III cartridge looks a lot like a ColecoVision cartridge. Whatevs. So, yeah, I might look for more Mark III games in the future. Might not. It really, like I said, it really just depends on if this version of the game is cheaper than getting it on the Master System. Something like Psycho Fox or something I might want to do. Import, if I can find a translation patch. Oh, the other thing that sucks about these is get them back in the damn box. Ooh, okay, I'm not dealing with your ass right now. I got other games to talk about. So, yeah, Hakudo no Ken, awesome. And that's the only Mark III game I have. Now I'm going to go into the Sega. Wow, it has already... I just started and it's already begun. I'm going to go into the Nintendo Famicom games. I do have a fair number of these. Not a whole lot, but I got some. Some really cool ones, I will say. I have... Okay, so I need to look these up because don't want to butcher the names. Because these are all of the Japanese NES games, most of which we did not get over here in the States. Nintendo... Yeah, I think it's under NES. So, where are you? Are you serious? One moment, please. Technical difficulties. Under Family Computer. Okay. So right now I have in my hand Akumaju Densetsu. Yes. Also known as Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. I do not have the US version of this game. I wanted the Japanese one exclusively because extra chips inside the cartridge. This has like an extra sound chip in it that gives a bunch of extra channels of sound, and it is actually very noticeable when you play this game and the American version back to back. I had the LP, like the soundtrack, on vinyl of this game, and it had the Famicom version on one side of the album and the US version on the other, and it is, like I said, very, very noticeable. So I wanted to get the OG, even though it's in Japanese. There is a translation patch. It's not a big deal. What's up, Salazar Naruto? What's up? My night is going very well. What's up, 8-Bit Glitch? How's it going, Sean? I'm definitely up for Micro Mages anytime. We need to contact, what is that, Funky Cat, or whatever the hell the name of that company is, and tell them they need to make like an online version. Had to get the kids down. It's cool. You just missed me rambling about why my computer sucks, Paul. Or Peter, Paul, Mary? What? It's been a long day at work. I was kind of pissed off all day. But now I get to come home and talk about video games with all you, and it makes me happy. Like I said, the game itself is unchanged gameplay-wise. Everything is still there, same as you know it. The music is just way better, like way better. A lot of bass. you can just tell there's just like more instruments being played over some of the songs. It is really fantastic. So absolutely had to get a copy of this. And I got this relatively cheaply. I've talked about it in previous streams and stuff like that, where I had found this dude on eBay that lives in Japan that was like selling video games in great condition and great prices. And every time I would go to him, I would get them super fast too. Like I've ordered stuff from like Play Asia. That shit takes 3 weeks to get here, maybe 4 sometimes. I'm still waiting on what was it? My Klonoa for PS5 set thing. I don't remember what it was, but I'm still waiting for that shit to show up, and I ordered that in the middle of last month, or the beginning of last month. It's been a month, and this guy would get me stuff within a week. So here's, if you haven't seen what a Famicom cartridge looks like, I'm pretty sure all of you have. That's what they normally look like with a fold-over label and all that. I just love the artwork for this game. The Japanese version, I think, has the better artwork. So, yeah, absolutely had to get this. And like I said, I found it with that guy on eBay for a great price. Could not pass it up. So, there you go. Now, get this sucker back in here. Come on, close up. And I also like how smaller the cartridges are compared to the US cartridges for the NES. And even the boxes are really compact. I love that. See, why couldn't we get this kind of stuff in the US? Because it would be much easier to put these on a shelf than the gigantic NES boxes, but whatever. So, like the Mark III game, I'm obsessed with Hakuto no Ken. There are a lot of Hakuto no Ken games available for the Famicom, and I just so happen to have every one of them. There are some different enemies in that version. I believe some of the characters you play is a bit different. Really, I haven't played the Japanese version like a whole lot, but I remember like the first couple of levels were exactly like I remember them. But then again, before buying this, the last time I played Part 3 was probably 1992. So I'm still waiting. I think it just finally I finally just got a notification that it shipped like 2 days ago, and I ordered it like at the beginning of July. Ugh. What's up? What's up? Was it Pat? Yeah, what's up? Okay, so Fist of the North Star, Hakuto no Ken games in Japan were plentiful. We got one of them over here on the NES, and I do believe it is the first one, which I have right here, which is an even smaller box when you compare it to the one from Castlevania. You can see that there's a very big difference, which is weird. But the cartridge is exactly the same size. I just think that the little plastic case inside that holds it in place is just tinier. But it's a side-scrolling platformer. It's not very good. They gave us the worst one in the US, which is kind of stupid. So, yeah, just a basic platformer. You punch people, they explode. Yeah. Then you got Part 2. I don't think any of these have... Yeah, the second one doesn't really have a subtitle, but I do dig that artwork. It's very cool. This one is another side-scrolling, beat-em-up, punch people, make their heads explode kind of thing. Nothing too special. The third one is, I do believe... Yeah, this one is Hakuto no Ken 3, Shin... Oh, Jesus. Shin Seiki Sozo Saiken Retsuden. Butchering that big time. This one is an RPG, which I absolutely cannot wait to find a translation patch so I can play that. I could not imagine a Fist of the North Star RPG. That just sounded super rad to me. So absolutely had to get that. And then we've got Part 4, which is Hakuto no Ken 4. Oh, Jesus. This one's got like 37 names in it. Shichisai Hakenden Hakudo Shingen no Katana E. What else? This is an RPG also. The back looks awesome. I cannot wait to find a translation patch and actually find some time to sit down and play through all of these. But there's that. That's the majority of my Famicom collection. But I also had to get a copy of, and this one still makes me laugh to this day, that this is a thing. This happened. The Konami thought that was the best license to make a video game out of ever, I guess. And that is King Kong 2, Ikari no Megaton Punch. This is based off of King Kong Lives, which was the sequel to the King Kong movie that came out in the late 70s with Jeff Bridges in it. The idea behind King Kong Lives was King Kong fell off of the World Trade Center in the remake of King Kong and died. Apparently not. He was brought to like a research facility, and they need to give him a heart transplant to keep him alive. So a bunch of people go off in search of another Kong. They find a female Kong, and it turns out that the only thing that Kong needed to live, he wasn't a heart. He needed to get laid. This is a real movie I'm talking about here. And they decided, Konami of all people decided, yes, we're going to make a game out of that. It is actually like a top-down beat-em-up, like Legend of Zelda style beat-em-up where you play as Kong and you're going around just punching the shit out of everything. Doesn't really have anything to do with the movie. I think the female Kong shows up at one point, but whatever. I don't understand why this happened and why it was never brought over to the US. Baffles the mind. I just love that they're like, yeah, by the way, it's got a 2 meg cartridge on there. Like, that's going to convince anybody to buy this. But the weird thing is, sometimes the worst movies make the best games because this game is actually really, really fun. I know there's repros of it out there. If you can find one, I would actually say pick one up. This movie is like a million times better than the movie that it's based on. It has no business being as good as it is. So I recommend this one a lot. I should have talked about that in my 31 days of licensed games series that I did at the beginning of the year. I actually wish I did. This should have been the one that I never thought would have gotten a game. The one movie that I never would have thought that got a game. Or I can't talk. The game or the movie that I never thought would get a video game. Yes. Has anybody ever seen the movie The Big Hit with Marky Mark in it? King Kong Lives is actually like a plot point in that movie. I need to watch that again. That movie's so stupid. Straightjacking! Anyway, if Dan B's still here, yeah, he is. What's the Kong game called again? It is called King Kong 2, Ikari no Megaton Punch. You can kind of see it on my phone there. King Kong 2, Ikari no Megaton Punch. Freeze frame it if you must. So this next Famicom game, I actually turned Dan B there from the Game Beaters onto because we watched this movie for my podcast, The Movie's Starting. It was him and Evil Dan and Dick Boots. We all watched together with my buddy Jeremiah and made fun of it the whole time. And that is Major League. Another movie that I never in a million years thought would get a video game. The only thing is, this is one of those licensed games where it was just an unrelated baseball game. Somebody who worked for IREM, this was released by IREM. IREM bought the license to Major League and slapped it on the box to sell some copies. There is no Charlie Sheen in here. There is no Tom Berenger trying to woo, what was her name from Lethal Weapon? Shit. I'm drawing a blank. There is no Wild Thing in here. Nothing like that. It is just a generic baseball game with super deformed characters. But because I like Major League so much, the movie, as a license, I was like, I absolutely have to have that. Because I'm a licensed game whore. I have to have them all. So, yeah, that's a thing. Wild Thing. I think you're a video game. But you're not actually in this one because reasons. Anyway, this is another one I got to look up because the name is crazy. And it comes in a weird-ass box, too. I cannot find a protector for this because it is such a weird shape. So this one is called Moryu Senki Madara. This is an RPG from Konami. And because of honestly, on an absolutely amazing box art. It's just so cool looking. And the weird shape of the cartridge, I absolutely had to get a copy of this. So I found this on eBay dirt cheap. And the thing about it, I showed you what the normal Famicom cartridge looks like. This thing is double the size. Because apparently this has a bunch of extra chips in it, and it's got a battery save, because this is some kind of crazy epic RPG. And I'm here for it. Came with a really thick manual. Pretty thick. And a map, and a bunch of extra shit. Yeah, there's this big-ass fold-out map that came with it. Which is pretty rad. I do believe there is a translation patch out there for this, and I definitely want to jump into this and find out what's going on. But, yeah, absolutely had to have it, because why not? And if you look at the back, It looks like a standard RPG from the era. Why not? But like I said, I got this dirt cheap off of eBay, so sure. And the final Famicom game I have is Star Wars, another licensed game. So I bet you're saying to yourself, hey, Chris, isn't there a Star Wars game already for the NES? Yeah, there is. It's not this one. There was two of them. There's the US one that was released by LucasArts, or JVC released it, and LucasArts, I think, made it. This one is by Namco. And it has I will say the cartridge itself, because this comes in like an actual hard, like, Master System style case. There's like a strap inside to hold all of the documentation, like the manual and all that. And the cartridge itself is this metallic blue, which looks rad as hell. So why did I want this game? Well, it doesn't quite follow the plot of the movie. Well, not like the other one that came out in the US does either. But you start off, you're playing as Luke Skywalker the whole game. You're not switching between characters like in the other version. You play as Luke Skywalker. You have your lightsaber from the start. You're killing Jawas on Tatooine. You go into the Sandcrawler to rescue R2-D2, and you end up fighting Darth Vader there. And then you fight him. Oh, and when you hit him, Vader turns into a giant scorpion. Because... yeah, you fight Vader like a lot in this game, and every time you do, it turns out he's like an imposter. It's like some creature's wearing a Vader costume, and when you hit him for the first time, you knock the costume off, and you're fighting like what's underneath it. So like the first time you fight him, it's like this giant scorpion with a giant head running around that you got to kill. And it's weird. It's fun. It's hard. But I really, really wanted to have this because of the weirdness factor of how the Japanese interpreted this movie as a video game. There's even some into the screen style Wing Commander, like outer space dogfight simulation stuff going on, which is kind of cool. I do believe there's one of those in the American version as well. But like I said, completely different game from what we got over here, and I wanted to have them both because I'm a Star Wars fan and licensed games. Duh. It is a great looking cart, dude. I love it. Scorpion Vader. It is the weirdest shit. I don't understand what happened, but kind of glad that it did because it gives me something to talk about. Put these over here. Okay, so now we can get into my Master System collection, which I do have a lot of, including a bunch of repros and imports, which is kind of rad. So let's jump right into that. So we'll start off with Action Fighter. Pick this up at my local retro store. What is that? Not People Play Games. Video Games Then and Now. And it's like playing Spy Hunter. Nothing special. I played this for like 20 minutes, and I was like, all right, I think I've gotten all I can possibly get out of this. So, sure. Next up is Alex Kidd in High Tech World. I went to this place called Freak Toys. I talked about it in the last stream also for some of the Atari games that I picked up there. Last year with my buddy Rocket Sauce from the Cartridge Club who lives in Milwaukee. And for my birthday, he's like, hey, come out to visit me in Milwaukee. I'll take you to Sheboygan to this place called Freak Toys and maybe a couple of other gaming stores in the area. He actually took me like all around southern Wisconsin, which was nuts. So we went to Sheboygan to this Freak Toys place. I had a bunch of stuff I wanted to trade in. They're known for being a toy shop or toy resale shop. But they also have video games and comic books and movies and all that kind of stuff. So I had movies, I had games, I had tons of toys. I had cleaned out my storage space and brought all of it, or the majority of it there. I got like almost $600 worth of credit and just went nuts. And they had a bunch of Sega Master System games that I've been looking for a long time, like this. I have yet to play I've only played one Alex Kidd game, but this one I think looks more like an RPG. It says it has 4 different scenes in it. I don't know. I tried it to make sure it worked when I first got it, but I didn't play it for very long. But yeah, like I said, it looks kind of like an RPG, or is this another just side-scrolling punch-a-thon like the original one was? The Battle Box in Milwaukee sometime. Is that the one that's in some dude's home? It's like in some guy's front room or something like that, right? Because my buddy Rocket Sauce told me to avoid that place, if that's the one you're talking about. He wanted to take me there, but he was like, no, because I know that like shady types show up there a lot, so we're not going to go there. I also picked up Alex Kidd in Miracle World. I do believe this is the OG Alex Kidd game. This is the one that I think of. It's like a platformer where you do a lot of punching. It's kind of like a ripoff of Mario, but instead of bumping the blocks with your head or your fist as you jump up, you have a big, massive fist that pops out in front of you to punch blocks and break them open and get items. There's also like boss fights, if I remember correctly, are like playing rock, paper, scissors, and it's really unfair, but whatever. This ended up getting built into the second generation Master Systems as like a built-in game to the console, which is kind of cool. But had to have that. Owner's off his rocker. Great selection. I'll have to talk to Rocket Sauce about that. I also got Alex Kidd, The Lost Stars. This one I have not played, but this one looks like a more colorful version of the OG. So this one is yet another platformer with Alex Kidd. And Alex Kidd was like the unofficial... I guess he was the mascot for the Master System days, and then Sonic took over on the Genesis when I guess the Alex Kidd game that came out for the Genesis didn't really fly like they thought it would. What's up, Sean? How are you doing this evening? I'm doing fine. Talking about video games. What could be better? So here's an import. I absolutely had to have this in my collection. If you know me, you know how much I love this movie that everybody seems to dislike immensely. But I love it. Therefore, I wanted all the video games of it. So I actually do have a complete subset of these games, except for the arcade cabinet, which I'm never going to have. But we're talking Alien 3. There was a ton of games that came out based on this film for pretty much every console you can imagine. Super Nintendo, Genesis, Master System, overseas, Game Boy, Game Gear, overseas, I think. No, it did come out over here. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's it. Yeah. This is sort of a downgraded port of the Genesis game. And the Nintendo game and the Game Gear game are based off of this, which is strange how that worked. And the Super Nintendo game is its own completely different thing, and the Game Boy game is its own complete different thing. So what this is like a side-scrolling run-and-gun, has a lot of exploration. You play as Ripley, and this, I've said it every time I've talked about this game, goes completely against the rules that the movie set up. In the movie, Ripley lands on this prison planet that is infested with lice and a bunch of rapists and criminals, and there are no weapons around, and there's only the one alien that has come with Ripley and is taking out all of the prisoners and gunning for her too. So in the game, that doesn't sound like very action-oriented. So to make it more like Aliens and give you something to do in the game, they decided to make there's billions of aliens running around this prison now, and you start off with a machine gun, a rocket launcher, a flamethrower, and grenades. Yep. And you play as Ripley, and you're trying to rescue all of the cocooned prisoners. There are so many you need to save per stage, and you are on a time limit, and you need to find all the prisoners within the time limit and then get to the exit. There are 5 sets of 3 stages, and at the end of every third stage, you fight a boss. It's actually pretty fun. At least the Genesis version is really fun. I really, really enjoy that one. Like I said, this is just a downgraded version of it, and the controls are a little bit more loose, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It's still pretty awesome. I would love to have the Alien 3 arcade cabinet in my place. Now, if I get a bigger place, I might actually look into getting maybe an arcade game or two. I would love to actually own an actual Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet, not like the arcade 1-up that I have. But Alien 3 is definitely one that I would look into because I loved playing that. It was like a gun game, like a light gun game. It was pretty awesome. So I recommend this if you like the Genesis game, or if you're an Alien fan, like I am. Then we have Alien Syndrome arcade hit. Yeah, this isn't I don't consider this a very good version of the arcade game. It's a top-down, like Legend of Zelda adventure game where you're playing as like a ripoff of Ripley from Alien and a male version of her, so I'm assuming like a Hicks ripoff. And you're going around these like space stations trying to rescue cocooned survivors. of an alien invasion. Like, all the different stations are infested with all these aliens. You need to take them out. You can find different weapons to do so. So you have to rescue all the people, kill the aliens, and get off the ship or the station or whatever within a time limit. The arcade game is pretty fun. This game is pretty fun also. It has a really cool FM soundtrack that I don't think you can actually listen to it on the Master System, but on my Retro Freak, when I play these, the FM sound comes through really well. But it's a decent port. I actually consider the Nintendo Tengen version to be superior to this for some reason. I don't know. I didn't think this would be a hard game to port, but whatever. It's not bad. It's just it could have been a hell of a lot better. I might get rid of this one. This is an Aztec Adventure. I picked this up at Midwest Gaming Classic, I think in 2018. I think 2018. I got this for like a steal. Like, there's a table that everybody that I talked to that I was hanging out with that weekend was like, there's one table over here. They're a bunch of movers. They just want to move product. Throw a number at them, and they'll probably say, okay, even if it's ridiculous. What's up, Cap? How's it going? So I talked the guy down to, like, I think $5 for this. And I was like, oh, I got to steal this. Game looks pretty rad. You know, the artwork is actually pretty decent for a Master System game. They're not known for having great artwork on their games. And the game on the back, I mean, the game shots that are on the back look kind of cool. And then I played it when I got home, and I was like, oh, no, I made a mistake. It's not that fun. It's like a top-down adventure style game. The sprites are a little bit too big, I think, for the game. It just makes it really hard to see what's coming and what you're dealing with most of the time. I just did not really enjoy it, so I might be getting rid of this one, maybe. So I was talking about that Hakudo no Ken game I have for the Mark III, the Japanese Master System. Well, I actually have the port, which is Black Belt, downgraded as it is. Yeah, like I said, they took out Kenshiro from the game and turned him into a generic dude in a gi. And all of the bosses have been changed to look more like generic bad guys. Like, there's a sumo wrestler and a guy in a purple outfit and whatever. But yeah, it's a side-scrolling beat-em-up. No one's head's exploding in this one. And when you get to the end of the stage, you fight a boss, and it's like it zooms in a little bit. Your character's a little bit bigger, and you punch and kick your way until you beat him, and you move on. It's fun. It's cool. I mean, I have memories of playing this. Like, I brought it up in the last set of streams, but my uncle in Ohio wasn't a gamer at all, but he bought a Master System so that when family members would come over with kids, you know, the kids would have something to do. So he bought a Master System, hooked it up in the basement, and whenever kids would come over, they would go down there and play the games while the adults would sit upstairs and chit-chat all night long, drinking and whatever. And I remember playing this a lot at my uncle's house, and I had a blast doing it. Didn't know that it was a Fist of the North Star game when I was playing it because I was not aware of Fist of the North Star yet. But like one of my cousins, Bill, who was significantly older than me, thought that he was gonna, you know, best me in video games, and I was just like, "Bitch, you know who you messing with?" And I would beat his ass in this game because we would trade off, and I would get so much further than he would, and he'd be like, "I don't understand how this controller works." I'm like, "Get out of here, Atari boy," that kind of stuff. It was pretty fun. I remember Christmas one year we had like a competition who could get the furthest, and I wiped the floor with the guy, and he was not happy. So, yeah, memories. Next up is a repro of a game that I only had played on my dad's Atari 800 XL computer. I had no clue that this came out in Japan or maybe Brazil. I don't know. This came out anywhere other than U.S. And when I found my buddy, what is it? Retrosaurus? Oh, was it something Saurus Games? Shit, don't make me look it up. 1 second, people. I'll look it up so you can give him some love. He's on the Instagram. He sells everything through Instagram. Toysaurus Games. Look up Toysaurus Games on Instagram. And it's Eric Koch, and he puts together Genesis repros and Master System repros that are top-notch. So the game I'm talking about is Bruce Lee. Like I said, I played this on my dad's computer in like the early 80s. I had no clue that it had ever been ported to one of these home consoles, because if it had, I would have bought it outright because I absolutely loved it. It's a platformer / beat 'em up where you're playing as Bruce Lee. You have to collect these lanterns, and enemies are trying to stop you from doing so. You can punch, you can kick. You mostly do a jump kick to attack And there's like demons and stuff running around sometimes too that take multiple hits. But there's how many stages are there? Like 5, I want to say. 5 different environments you need to fight through. And it is super fun. I loved it. There's a reason why I was playing this all the time back when I was a kid. So the moment I saw that Eric had put this up for sale on Instagram, I was like, dude, I mean, that needs to be mine like right now. And he also he is mostly known for doing hacks of Streets of Rage, where they put other game characters inside Streets of Rage 2. And at the same time he released this repro, he released Streets of Rage 2 starring Bruce Lee, and the cartridge itself was like yellow, bright yellow, like Bruce Lee's outfit from Game of Death, which is the reason why the label on the cartridge is yellow, just like Bruce Lee's Game of Death outfit, which is super freaking cool. And another plus is he never makes manuals for his repros. This is like one of the first ones I ever got that Eric has done with a manual, which made me super happy. So if you can hit him up, if you're interested, hit him up for this. It's a fantastic game. He might be able to make you one. It's been about a year since I bought it. Next up, we got Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse, and this is a downgraded port of the Genesis game. But if you saw my episode from the 31 Days of Licensed Game series that I did at the beginning of the year, I consider this superior to the Genesis game. This one plays better, controls a little bit better. The music is actually really catchy, even though it's a bunch of beeps and boops. You know, it's not as well done as the Genesis music is. But I just found myself enjoying this so much more than the Genesis one. And I don't know if it's just because it's been simplified a little bit, but I loved every second when I was playing this one. Don't ask me why. It just worked out that way. But this is an import. We never actually got this over here. I had to get this off of the eBays. This one is another game that I used to play on my dad's Atari computer all the time. It's been available. I think this is out for every frickin' system out there. I think a sequel came out for the Super Nintendo too. But we're talking Shoplifter. It's a really simple helicopter game where the whole idea behind it is you're playing as this helicopter and you're going out to rescue people. So you have like a base of operations that you leave from, and you have to go out and find like there's enemies you end up fighting in the air and on the ground, but there's like tents and stuff that you have to blow up, and when you blow them up, like the people that are being held hostage will run out, and then you have to land. They have to get inside your chopper, and you need to be able to transport them back to your base without dying, because if you die, everyone in your helicopter dies. And this one kind of ups the ante, because the one that I used to play on my dad's PC was very simple. It was always the same environment or whatever. This one, there's like at sea, and you're in the desert, and all this kind of stuff, so there's different environments, which is really rad. So it kind of like changed everything, so it's pretty cool. Shoplifter is a classic. I should probably look up Shoplifter 3 for the Super Nintendo, see if I can get a copy of that, because talking about it now has made me want to play it. I don't know what I'm doing this weekend. Next up is Cloudmaster. I picked this up at the Exchange near me. I think this was when I was out with Captain Algebra, when you came to visit the first time when we went game hunting in my area. But it's a shmup where you're playing as this little kid on a cloud, and you're shooting at enemies that are coming at you. It's a horizontal shmup. And I remember when I tried it out to see if it worked, it was pretty fun. I liked it a lot. I need to put a little bit more time into it. It looks, I mean, even the pictures on the back are like super colorful. That's the one thing that I like about the Master System games is even though the Nintendo was the more powerful, well, I don't know if it was the more powerful console, but it was more well-known. The games on the Master System always seem to be just a little bit more colorful or a little bright, more bright. I don't know. Cheerful. What else? Next up is Double Dragon. I don't know if I like this more than the Nintendo version. The Nintendo version is fine. This one's pretty good too. Way better than Double Dragon 3 on the Genesis, I'll tell you that. The Cap Note's all about that. But I wanted to pick this up. I think I bought this from Matt. If Matt Robbins is still in the chat, I think I bought this from you at the Midwest Gaming Classic. You streamed an NES version of Shoplifter, or Snooping as a Shoplifter from my roulette streams. Oh, really? And was it fun? If it's worth it, I'll pick it up. But classic arcadey beat 'em up. I remember I walked past your table at the MGC. I think it was when we were still in the tents. So this is like 2017, maybe. I remember I walked past your table and I saw it, and I was like, I'll come back for you. And then, like, right before I left for the day, I remember, I think I walked up your table and I was just like this. It was so bad on the Genesis. It's hard but fair. But I really like the Master System version. So, like I said, it's two different takes on the arcade game. Each of them has their strengths and weaknesses. I need to get the first game in this series. But we got Fantasy Zone 2. And the funny thing is, these Fantasy Zone games I've all found at the exchange near me. So Fantasy Zone 2 is essentially the exact same thing as the first game. It's a shmup, but it plays like Defender a little bit. It plays this little ship called Opa Opa. And there's like these nests, I guess you want to call them, that enemies are spawning from, and you need to destroy all of the nests that are littered throughout the area. But you don't just fly in one direction. You can actually turn around and go in every direction to fight what you need, or to find all of these like nest things to blow up. There's like stores. The enemies drop coins and you blow them up, and you can go into a store and like upgrade your ship. But most of the stuff is temporary. This one is just kind of a little more complicated. The graphics are a little bit better, but it's almost the exact same thing as the first one. That's not a bad thing because I love me some Fantasy Zone. That was like a flagship series. There was a bunch of these. So we also have Fantasy Zone The Maze. It's a 1 mega cartridge, guys. Hold on to your butts. Yeah, this one is like Pac-Man with Fantasy Zone. Found this at, I just said it, the exchange also. I think I found this one with Rocket Sauce? It was either Rocket Sauce or Cap when I bought this one. It might have been Cap. But yeah, I want to get all these Fantasy Zone games for the Master System, so I just need the OG, and I'm good. Here's another repro I got from Toy Saurus Games. But this is a port of a import Game Gear game. Probably linked your vid on my old Facebook page back then. You hate how upgrades are temporary in Fantasy Zone. Yeah, that's the only thing about the Fantasy Zone games that I think is kind of dumb. Is like I buy the better laser or the better weapon, and like it only lasts for like 2 minutes or so many shots or something like that. It's kind of bullshit. So I just got to keep on going and buying it over and over again, which is some BS. But anyway, so GG Alesta 2, which is, I think, one of the most expensive import games on the Game Gear. And it's a vertically scrolling shmup. And I could not initially get this to work. So like I said, this is a Game Gear game that Eric ported over to a Master System cart. And I wanted it immediately because I know I'm never going to be able to afford, or why would I want to pay that much for a Game Gear game? But when I saw that he ported it, I was like, yeah, give it to me right now. I'll pay $40 for that. And I couldn't get it initially to work on my Retro Freak because this is not. It's a Game Gear game, and I was using the Master System port to play, and it kind of like confused my Retro Freak, so it just would not recognize it. But using my Game Gear Master System adapter for my Retro Freak on an actual Genesis console, it worked fine. I ended up playing this for like 3 hours. It is so much fun. It is a super fun vertically scrolling shmup. And don't let the fact that it was on the Game Gear fool you. This game is tough, but it is super fun. I can see why so many people want to own copies of it. I'm just glad I have it in some form. So I need to try it again now that I've updated my Retro Freak to see if I can play this. If not, I got to break out my CDX. But that's fine. I'm okay with that. Great game. Not so great game is Ghostbusters. Although everyone rags on the Ghostbuster game that came out for like the Atari 2600, all the Atari computers, all the Nintendo. It came out for the Master System. It's not a great game, but out of all the ones I've played, which is the Atari 2600 and the one that came out for my dad's computer, so that was the 800XL, and the NES one, this is the best version of this craptastic game. So you're playing as the Ghostbusters. You've got a map of the city. One of the buildings lights up. That's where there's a ghost attack happening. You drive over there, and you have to trap whatever ghost is flying around the building. On the way, if you run over ghosts that are like also running around on the map, you'll go into like a driving section, and you have like a vacuum cleaner on top of your car. You can suck up the ghost if you drive past it. It's not a great game. It is super hard, but the ending is easier on this than it is in the Nintendo version. The ending where you gotta like slam the buttons like super fast in order to get your characters to like go up the stairs to get to the top of the building to take on Zool. I don't think it's like that in this. It looks better, it plays better, it sounds better on the Master System, but it's still not a very good game. Yeah, dude, it is way better than the NES version. I mean, just look at what the graphics look like on this one. I mean, it just looks 100 times better. I think it's because Sega ported this and Activision did it for the NES, so they just did a way better job. One of the few games where it's like so much better on the Master System than the Genesis. So the other thing about the Genesis or the Master System is that not only did you get cartridges, you also had these little Sega cards, little credit card looking things. I have a handful of these games in my collection. This one is Ghost House. It's a side-scrolling platformer where you're playing as like this little vampire kid. And I think you're trying to take out Count Dracula. And it's kind of like playing Goonies, the original Goonies game that we didn't get over here that they only got in Japan. It's kind of like that. But yeah, the cards themselves are like the size of a credit card. And then NEC ended up copying these for the Master System. Or for, not the Master. What am I talking about? The TurboGrafx. Oh, I can't talk. Play the Master System version before you play the Nintendo one. You'll have something to complain about once you play the Nintendo one. Yeah, the Hue cards. I love the fact that NEC like based their entire console on these little credit card things. And you think that they wouldn't be able to hold much data, but you play some of those games, you're like, wow. But yeah, Sega tried this out on the Master System for a little while and didn't work out from what I understand. People just didn't know what to make of them. So they canceled them and they just stuck with cartridges. Here's a pretty good one. I need to find the manual for this. But Golvelius, Valley of Doom. This is a Legend of Zelda clone, but a really good Legend of Zelda clone. This, you want to talk about like colorful and cool character designs? This has got it. Look at that snake creature on the second picture. I always thought that was the coolest looking thing. Church, the Game Grinder, made it like a point. I want to say it was the first year that the Midwest Gaming Classic took place in the convention center. So this is 2018. It was like the entire weekend was all about finding a copy of this so he could play it because he heard so many good things about it. And I was one of the people that was singing his praises. I'm like, yeah, I haven't beaten the damn thing, but I ended up playing it for a long time when I got my copy to make sure it worked. And I was like, well, I need to move on and try out the other games that I bought that day. Super fun game. I highly recommend it if you haven't played it. If you like action RPGs, do it. Do now. Come on. Here's another import. I got, like, was it a year ago? I want to say. It was like during COVID. I must have been I think it was 2020. I got like really heavily into buying like import Master System games. Like who was it? Oh, a Sir HC Man or Cirque Man who streams on Twitch. I've been following him for a while. I've chatted with him a lot. I follow him on Twitter, and he was making a real effort to like get like every Master System game that's available from the U.S., from Japan, from Brazil, like at least one copy of each game. And he showed like a picture of his shelving unit that is just crammed with games. And I was looking at it, and like in close-up, I was going shelf to shelf, going like, when did that come out for that console? Like, I need to have that and that and that. And I kind of like got into a import Master System mood. Ghost House is kind of fun. Some of the other games that come out for the Hue cards, not so much. So one of the games that I saw on his shelf was Impossible Mission, which was a game that I used to play on not only my dad's computer, but also my buddy Charlie's Commodore 64. And it's like a side-scrolling platformer. It's comparable to like Elevator Action, but you have like computers that you need to hack and stuff like that on top of like going through elevators and yeah, whatever. You can kind of tell from the pictures what kind of game it is. It is very, very fun, very cool. I do think it's kind of funny that whenever you jump, your character does this weird, awkward like flip where he doesn't like ball up. He kind of like just arches his back and does this weird flip. It's pretty awesome. When I saw this on Cirque Man's or Sir HC Man's shelf, I was like, yeah, that's one that I need to look up. And I found it on eBay dirt cheap. And I think this was from the UK. You might need to get like an adapter to play those games on an American Master System, but because I have the Retro Freak, which is like region free, I can play it. So that was pretty rad. Also, we got here Ken Sidin, which I think I got off of eBay at some point. I can't remember, but this is a side-scrolling hack and slash. You play as a samurai. and you're just running around slashing the shit out of people. It's actually kind of fun. I like this one a lot. Or is this the one that I didn't like? There was one of these games. Let me see real quick. This might have been the one that I didn't enjoy. Because I bought this in another game. Yeah. I think this is the one that I didn't enjoy so much. Yeah, I found it really awkward and slow and unresponsive. That's Sidin. Yeah, not a fan of this one all that much. But it is complete, so can't really complain. And it comes with that poster, too, that I always liked finding when my uncle had these games for us to play at his place in Ohio. That shows you, like, all the Master System games that are coming out. And I was like, oh, can I get one of those, please? My parents were like, dream on. You got an Atari. Be happy you have that. But, like, look at all that. That is super cool. Like, all these games. Teddy Boy, Zaxxon 3D. The fact that I could have gotten like a 3D virtual reality helmet-looking thing and played games in 3D on my television, that just blew my mind. But, no, parents weren't having it, so I was sad. But whatever. Yeah, Sidin. Another import, I had to get this because of my whole Psygnosis obsession that happened for like 6 months or whatever. So I got Lemmings on the Master System. This one is from the UK because you can tell, because the manual is long lengthwise. It's a horizontal manual and not a vertical one. But if you ever played Lemmings, it's a puzzle game where you direct a bunch of lemmings who are trying to kill themselves. You have to direct them to an exit by having them dig through barriers, stop each other from moving to like a platform or a drop-off where that'll kill them. It's pretty fun, but the levels toward the end get really, really complicated. And trying to keep track of everything going on becomes like a chore. But it says down there it's 120 levels. I don't know if I want to play this game that long. But it's fun. This is another game that has like ports on every damn console out there. And I have quite a lot of them. Here's another good one, Lord of the Sword. I picked this up off of eBay, I do believe, also. And this one is a side-scrolling action RPG, I think. It's like comparable to Zelda 2, if I'm remembering correctly. It's a 2 mega cartridge. Ooh. Art thou the man who will kill the king or just another rogue with a sword? I don't know. Tell me, game. Tell me what's up. Yeah, I need to sit down and play this, but it looks pretty rad. But yeah, if I remember correctly, this was kind of like playing Zelda 2, which I'm not opposed to because I love Zelda 2. Nobody wants to play Lemmings for 120 levels. Hell to the no. I love Lemmings, but like I can only play it for like spurts, and then I want to like just no. There's another import that I picked up during that little import spurt, and this is The Lucky Dime Caper starring Donald Duck. When I went to Freak Toys with Rocket Sauce for my birthday, I think it was last year. Was it last year when I did it? Yeah, last year. They had a copy of this in the case because someone had, like, I think a week before we went there, someone sold their entire Master System collection to Freak Toys. And we got there like at the tail end of it. Like most of it had been picked clean, but there was still a good number of stuff. And like I said, I already grabbed a bunch of it. This was in the case, but Rocket Sauce was looking for certain games that the Q-Dogs were after. Like Mighty Q-Dog wanted some because he collects the Master System and he wants a lot of these imports. And this was in there. And I think he grabbed the copy, or Rocket Sauce grabbed the copy of this for Mighty Q-Dog, which I was like, whatever, fine. I'll get a copy later. And I did because I got this off of eBay. And this is a side-scrolling platformer, I think. Yeah, this is a side-scrolling platformer. Where you're playing as Donald the Duck. And I played this for like 30 seconds just to make sure the cartridge worked. And I think you're going after Huey, Dewey, and Louie to save them. Looks like Baloo the Bear is in it. Whatever. It looked cool. But this is the one I absolutely had to have. And I got this during my little Master System import kick. But I got this off of a dude on Facebook. So I told him I was interested in buying this game. He had put this and a bunch of other import games. The guy lived in the UK. He had put this and a bunch of other import Master System games up for sale. I said I want it. And then he told me what he wanted for it. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to pass. And then I got a bonus from work out of nowhere because of COVID. My employer was kind of like, hey, for those of you who have stuck through working here during COVID, here's like a bonus. And I was like, oh, I have some extra money now. Hey, guy, is that thing still available that I was looking at? And he said, yes. I'm like, would you be willing to knock a little bit of money off of it because you're still asking a little bit too much? And he was like, yeah, sure. The shipping price was going to be pretty high, so he knocked some money off of it. And I got a copy of Master of Darkness. So I had this for the Game Gear also. That's how I originally played this game. And on the Game Gear, it's called Vampire, Master of Darkness. This is actually a clone of Castlevania. And a fantastic clone of Castlevania it is. So you're playing as this dude in a business suit who's running around London trying to take out Dracula. And instead of having a whip, you start off with like a knife. And you can like knife guys that come up to you. And as you go, you get better weapons. You get like an épée. You'll find a gun. I think you get a spear or something. I cannot remember exactly. But it plays just like Castlevania. Instead of hitting candles to get items and power-ups, there's like these mime masks that are all over the place. You end up fighting a lot of really cool bosses like Jack the Ripper and stuff. It is really, really fun. I loved it so much on the Game Gear, I absolutely had to have the real game, like the original version of it that came out on the Master System. So super happy to get a copy of this, and you can tell it's British because it has that horizontal manual. We did not get this over here, but had to have that. Dude, it is so much fun. I talked Radical Reggie into buying the Game Gear version because I talked about it. I did a video like early on in my channel where I was like games to play during Halloween, and the last game I talked about was the Game Gear version of this. And Reggie saw the video and immediately went out and got a copy of it, and then immediately went out and got a copy of this when he found out that there was a Master System version. So I basically got him interested in this game, and he absolutely loved it. So hails to the yeah! Here's another RPG for the Master System. We got Miracle Warriors, The Seal of the Dark Lord. I played this fairly briefly to make sure it worked, and it did, but it looks like your average RPG. But this one has that window where the character's like in front of you, in front of the, like their backs are facing you in the window, and as you're moving, it's kind of 3D-esque. Wow. Like I said, it's been a long day, and I was mad for most of it, but whatever. It's pretty fun. I need to spend more time in it, but it's an RPG, so we'll see if that actually happens. So when I went to Freak Toys last year with Rocket Sauce, I used some of my credit to pick up Montezuma's Revenge, starring Panama Joe. The only problem was this didn't have the manual, but it was for such a good price, I didn't want to pass it up, because this game is like going for a pretty penny nowadays, and it was like 2/3 of the price, I think, when I found it there. And it is a platformer that I used to play on my dad's 800XL, and once I found out that there was a port of this to the Master System, I absolutely had to have it. And it doesn't look like much, but it is super fun. It's kind of like an Indiana Jones style game. You're kind of like this super deformed little hero guy, and there's obstacles, there's enemies running around. It's mostly just a lot of jumping and not a lot of attacking kind of things and climbing, but it is super fun. I remember I just spent hours and hours and hours playing this on my dad's computer. Absolutely loved it, so had to have this. And I remember Mighty Q Dog saw me buy a picture of this when I showed off my purchases from Freak Toys, and he was just like, "Oh, you found that one? That one's really hard to find." I was like, "Oh, right." The store actually had it. I had to get this from Brazil. And this is the port of Mortal Kombat. And you can even say that it has that parental guidance advised sticker on it. Yeah, once I found out that the Master System actually had ports of Mortal Kombat, you guys know I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan. I mean, duh. I was like, I had to get all of these ports to this. And if you've played the Game Gear version of Mortal Kombat, you've played this. It does not play very well. It is super sluggish. It is slow. The controls are not very responsive. It's been kind of like gimped. I don't think all the characters are actually there. I think I want to say a couple of characters are actually missing. I know it's Raiden, Sonya, Liu Kang, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero. I don't think Kano is in this. Yeah, I don't think Kano's in this. Yeah, it plays better than the Game Gear version, but not by much. But I just wanted to get this because Mortal Kombat. And like I said, I got this from Brazil, so you can tell it's a Brazilian one because it's got the blue manual, the dark blue manuals. There's also Mortal Kombat 2, which is really expensive. And then there's a really hard-to-find version of Mortal Kombat 3, which is beyond expensive. I'll probably never own that. And I found out about that because of Sir H.C. Man. So here's another one of these Sega card things. It's My Hero. This is the one that I think is absolute doo-doo. I made my video about the Retro Freaks Game Gear Master System adapter that lets you play Master System cartridges, Mark III cartridges. It was the SG-1000, which was the pre-SG or the pre-Mark III console, which was, I guess, comparable to a ColecoVision. I downloaded a bunch of ROMs for that console so I could try them out. And it could also let you play Game Gear games and the Sega card games. So this was one of the games I tried out and I recorded footage of while I was for that video. And this game is poop. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up that has crappy controls, shitty hit detection. It is god-awful. I had no fun playing this game. But aren't the cards cute? The guy getting punched in the face that's on the front here is exactly what I want to do to this game. I want to punch this game in the face. It is so bad. This was the game when I was talking about Sidin that I liked. I got this and Sidin at the same time, and this was the fun one. That's the Ninja. This is a top-down... It's kind of like playing Pocky and Rocky, I guess, where it's like a vertically scrolling, like almost like a shmup, but you're on foot, and you're throwing ninja stars at the enemies that are coming down the screen at you, and you're progressing. It's like an auto-scroll system. So it's like, I compared it to like, what is it, not Enemy Mine? Frontline. I used to play that in the arcade all the time. It is really, really fun. I had a lot of fun when I played this, when I first got it to make sure the cart worked, and I liked it a lot. It is definitely a keeper. So I was not sad about this. Sidin, not so much, but this, hails to the yeah. Mortal Kombat fan, you don't say. No, I don't. I never say. Found this also at the exchange, and I want to say I was with Cap when I got this also, and it's Penguin Land. This is like a super common game. I find this, now that I own this, every time I go to video games then and now, I see more copies of it showing up on their Master System shelf. Like there was one like a year ago, and I want to say like a couple visits later, there was two, and they're like multiplying. Now there's like four. But it's a puzzle platformer where you're playing as a penguin and you're trying to, like, I think, collect your eggs. You're going underground to plan more than your next move because now, with the help of super advanced battery, you can actually design each game mate. What? Oh, you're aboard a cosmic expedition that's full of action and adventure, and guess who's in command? Your mission, bring fragile eggs back safely home from a foreign land. That is the weirdest description for a game I've ever read that has a penguin in it. But it's actually pretty fun. I don't know if I showed the footage or the gameplay already. But yeah, it's actually pretty fun. I like this one a lot. I wasn't sad that I bought it. Last stack of Master Systems. Here's the big one. Got this at the Midwest Gaming Classic. The last time it was in the tent, which was 2017. And I managed to talk the dude down because I was like, hey, there's another seller with a copy of this over there that's also complete. He's selling it for $20 cheaper than you. I think Church was there when I bought it. Yeah, he was standing right next to me when I bought it. And the guy goes like, really? I was like, yeah, I can go over there right now and get it for you if you want. He was like, I'll take $20 off. So I got a copy of Phantasy Star, the OG. And with this, I have every Phantasy Star game that doesn't count the online ones. I have Phantasy Star for the Master System, and 2, 3, and 4 for the Genesis, and that's all I care about. There's also Phantasy Star Zero, then, now that I think about it, and that's for the Game Boy Advance. Damn it! I just derailed myself. Shit. But yeah, this is complete. Comes with not only the manual, but the poster. This is why the guy didn't want to drop the $20. He's like, it's got the poster. I was like, I don't give a shit. I was like, I have other games with the poster. Doesn't matter to me. I'm like, I just don't want to pay the $20 extra you're charging for it. Anyway, get in there. Get in there. Oh, man, I just screwed myself. There we go. But the cartridge itself is actually pretty heavy because it's like one of the few that has like the battery backup. I should probably open this up and make sure that the battery isn't like melting. But yeah, the cartridge actually has like some heft to it, which is kind of strange. But super awesome RPG, a science fiction RPG, which I think makes it more appealing to me. And the cool thing is when you're in the dungeons, it goes into a first-person dungeon crawl phase where like you're walking through the dungeon and it's actually scrolling really smooth in the first person, which is something I never thought I would ever see in a Master System game. I thought that would be something that you'd only be able to see like on a Super Nintendo or a Genesis card, but they did it on the Master System, which is super impressive. You're here for the ride, even though the train derails. Yeah, I know, right? But I played this quite a bit when I first got it, and I need to go back in. I'm probably going to have to start over because I don't remember where the hell I was and what I was doing. But great game. Started off to a great series. Next up, I think this was the first game for the Master System I bought once I heard that the Retro Freak was going to be releasing that Master System adapter thing. So I got this at the Midwest Gaming Classic, the one where I bought Double Dragon from Matt. And that's Rambo First Blood Part 2. Because licensed games, this is also one of those top-down, like vertically scrolling shooters, kind of like the those levels in Contra and Super C, actually, where you're walking up and taking out bad guys like Frontline again. This one is super fun. I like this one a lot. This is probably my favorite of the Rambo games because the one we got for the Nintendo is not that good, if you haven't already heard that. But this one is super great. I was happy that I found a copy of it there for like dirt cheap. It was like $6. Got this from Nintendo, and if you have this for the Nintendo, I'm sorry, but you need to get it for the Master System instead because this is the complete version of Rampage. I used to play this arcade game all the time. They had it at our local bowling alley. Whenever I was off from school, my mother was on like a Tuesday morning bowling league with a bunch of her friends, like other moms. And if we were off of school that day, she wasn't going to leave us at home by herself, so she would take us with. And the bowling alley had like a few arcade games. They actually had the original Super Mario Brothers, and I used to play that all the time there too. But they had the original Rampage, and I played the crap out of it. And the cool thing about this is it has all three characters, where the Nintendo version only has two. So in this one, you've got Ralph the Wolf, George the Ape, and Lizzie the Lizard to play as. And then you just basically are just going around destroying buildings, which doesn't sound like it's super fun, but when you're playing like as these kaiju characters and you're doing it, it's kind of cool. Especially when like you'll knock a window open and there's like a person taking a bath, and then you grab them and eat them. Or you see like a TV and you punch it and you get like electrocuted because it's plugged in. It's pretty cool. I like this one a lot. This one is way better than the regular NES version. I am not a fan of that one at all, and I will never buy it. But Rastan, on the other hand, I used to play this at our local Euro place. They had the coin-op of this, and I played it all the time. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up, hack-and-slash, kind of Conan-esque, where you're just running around beating up bad guys, collecting treasure, getting really awesome weapons. I remember you get this axe that is like super long and can take out enemies like maybe 3 character lengths away from you. Yeah, Rampage in the arcade, hells to the yeah. This was one of the first games I knew I needed to get into my collection once I started collecting for the Master System because I loved the arcade version of this. And this is actually a very good port of the arcade version. Little things were tweaked in order to make it work on a home console, but it's essentially the arcade game, and it's pretty spot on. I like that one a lot. Next up is Rescue Mission. I think I bought this with Cap also from the exchange. And this one is all about rail cars. You can see the guy like on one of those ones that you have to like pump in order to move. And you're just running around like rescuing people that are like on the side of the train tracks. If I remember correctly. And that's all the game really is like a bunch of train tracks, and you're just running around trying to rescue people as they're shooting at enemies are shooting at you at the same time. It doesn't sound exciting, but I remember I had some decent fun when I tried this out to make sure. Oh no, I am wrong. I am so wrong about. Okay, this was the one that I couldn't play. I remember I was watching it happen. That was what was going on. I was watching it happen because light phaser required. I can't play this. I remember I was watching it. It was going by. You're trying to stop people from attacking the people on the rail cars that are driving around. You're trying to shoot the enemies that are approaching them. And I couldn't do shit because I don't have a CRT and I don't have a light phaser, so I couldn't play it. But I remember when I was watching it happened, and I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. So I'm probably going to be getting rid of this. Now that I think about it, this is probably going to go in my pile. See, another cool thing about doing these streams is I realize that there's certain games that I need to get rid of. That's one of them. I'm going to set you over here. I also bought, what was it, Zaxxon 3D from, what was it, Video Games Then and Now, not realizing that you absolutely had to have the 3D peripheral to play it. I thought you could play it without it, but it gave you this extra option to do it in 3D if you had the whole thing. No, you absolutely cannot play it without that 3D thing. And I remember I took it back to the guy, and I was like, I didn't realize I needed the 3D thing. And he was like, I'm not taking it back. He's like, it's on the front, and it says it's required. And you bought it. Okay, now we got Rocky. I play this at my uncle's place all the time. He bought this because Rocky's an Italian character, and I am Italian, and my uncle prided himself on his Italianness, so absolutely had to have the game starring the Italian stallion. The only thing is, you only fight 3 people, which is kind of disappointing. There's only 3 fights in the entire game. The first time you fight is against Apollo Creed. Second time you fight, it's against Mr. T, and the third time you fight is against Drago from Rocky IV. And that is it. In between, you can build up your stats a little bit by doing like these mini games where you can do the punching. What is it called? The punching bag that you have to like juggle, and it's about timing. When the hitting of the buttons has to be timed perfectly to get it to work. And I think there's also the punching bag, and there's another one where you have to like dodge, and you can up your stats a little bit to make fighting your next opponent, who like the difficulty ramps up extremely high by the time you get to Drago. Like I think I've only beaten Mr. T maybe twice. But yeah. It's hard. It's kind of disappointing that the game is so short. But at that point in time when this game was made, there was only 4 Rocky movies. Now there's like 37. And Rocky's like an old man going, I want to fight one more time. No, I'm saying? I'm not no brain damage. Really good port of Shinobi. This one is the only one that has the in-between bonus stages where it's like in the first person and you're throwing the ninja stars at the enemies that are like trying to jump at you from the background. They're coming like closer and closer. But when you're not doing one of those, it is a side-scrolling like hack and slash shooter because you're using ninja stars most of the time. And you're rescuing kidnapped kids, if I remember correctly. And then there's also boss battles and stuff. I used to play the arcade game of this at our local dollar theater when I was a kid. Well, it wasn't really local. It was like a good 40 minutes away from our home. But I remember I loved playing it, and I never had a Master System as a kid, so never really got a chance to play it until that Tengen version came out, but it was missing those throwing star in-between level things or stages, so I was not happy when I rented it. But this is the only one that has it, so yay. Never going to get to 5,000 games. You're getting rid of games like that. If I can't play it, I'm not going to keep it. I don't see myself getting a CRT anytime soon. I just don't have space for it. So now this is one of the games that I picked up at Freak Toys when I went with Rocket Sauce last summer. And Mighty Q Dog wanted this too, but I snatched it before he said he wanted it because I already had it in my hand. And then he texted Rocket Sauce. He's like, oh, yeah, that Smurfs game. I want that, too. I just ruined it. It's a Smurfs. He's like, I want that Smurfs game, too. He's like, well, sorry, Chris already has it. He's like, that's his birthday. He can have it. I was like, you're not here. I'm going to take him if you want it or not. But, yeah, this is, I think, the German release. And the funny thing is it has the names for the Smurfs in, like, I don't know how, like, was it 7 different languages? Le Schtroumpfs, the Smurfs, I Puffy, Die Schumpe, Smurfarma, Los Pituros, the Smorfin. What? But here's another one that I think is like super colorful, and it's a platformer where you're playing as the Smurfs. I took one look at the back of this, and I was like, I'm not a big Smurfs fan. I remember I used to watch it when I was a kid, but I was never like, oh, those are the best things ever. I'd rather watch the Snorks. If you remember that shit, you're old like me. But looking at the back of this, I was like, that actually looked kind of fun. So I picked it up. And, yeah, you can tell it's an import because it's got the white label on the cart and the lengthwise manual. super happy that I got this, and it was for a really decent price, too. So it's something I've never seen before, and I probably will never see again, because, I mean, that's something from Germany, of all things. I'm sure I could find it on eBay if I really wanted it, but it was there, so I took it. Here's another import. I got this when I was on that import kick, and I used to play this in the arcade all the time, especially at the Six Flags. It is called Space Gun. I absolutely love this, and it is a light gun game. So we're going to take a cue from this rescue mission. Hey, Chris, you knew that it was a light gun game going into it when you bought this home port. Why would you do it if you can't use your light phaser? Well, it's because you don't need to. I bought it because I asked the guy, I was like, let me see the back of the box. I mean, let me see a scan of the back. So he sent me a picture, and it says, peripherals, Sega control pad or control stick, and a light phaser. So you can play this without having a light phaser. You just have to use the controller as the reticle to shoot the aliens that are coming at you. And it's a big rip-off of, like, Alien and Aliens, but it's really awesome. I remember I absolutely loved this back in the day, so I had to have it when I found out it got a port on the Genesis? No. The Master System. Yeah, I think this one is from the UK. Almost dropped that bitch. So super stoked that I managed to find a copy of that. Got a copy of Space Harrier that I do believe I found out with Captain Algebra, but I got this at Video Games Then and Now, and they had this in the expensive game case, even though it was only like $20. But super fun, into the screen shooter, really early Star Fox kind of game where you're shooting aliens and two-headed dragons and whatever's coming at you, and you can fly all around the screen. It's super fun. There's a sequel to this on the Genesis. I always liked the arcade game of this. I played it whenever I could find it. I remember I played it the most at Showbiz Pizza. Yay. So I'm happy to find that. Although the one thing that has going against it is it has a ton of slowdown. I don't think the Master System could actually handle like the speed that the arcade game moves at. So like it kind of stutters because of it. It's trying to replicate the arcade as close as it can, but I don't think the Master System can actually handle it. But whatever. Here is a weird one, and that is Spellcaster. So I picked this up because I think at least 3 people online told me that this was a really fun game. So I tracked down a copy of it. I got it for, I think, $25 or whatever. It wasn't really that expensive, so I picked it up sight unseen. And then I want to say like a week later, I go to Twitch, and Sir HC Man, who I was talking about, who got me into this import craze for the Master System, was streaming this. And it is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It is part side-scrolling puzzle / platformer / beat-em-up. But when those sections are over, it turns into a point-and-click adventure. And you can see them both on the back. It is the strangest thing. I did not realize that that's what this game was about. And when it came to the point-and-click parts of it, like, Sir HC Man was like, this is the dumbest shit. But he wanted to keep playing it because he liked the side-scrolling levels, but the point-and-click stuff was like, it's asking weird stuff of me, and I don't know what it's referring to, and I'm confused, and I need a walkthrough. But, yeah, if I was a kid playing it, watching the way he was getting frustrated with it, if I was a kid playing this, I would have been like, I would have been bald sooner because I would have ripped all my damn hair out. But it didn't look bad. It just looked weird, like I said. It was just strange. So here's another one of these Sega cards. This one's actually really cool. I've always liked the games based on this license. And that is Spy vs. Spy, those 2 kooky guys from the Mad comics, the Mad magazine. And you play as one or the other, and one of them is on the top screen, one of them is on the bottom of the screen, and you can play 2-player, and that way each person can play their own version of what they want to do. They don't have to worry about, like, screwing up with, it's like a split screen. One person gets their own screen to do what they do, and then the other person gets the other screen. I'm losing my freaking mind here because I'm so tired. And it's really cool. You're just trying to destroy and kill the other person. Most of the games in this series from this license are the same way. Outside of Carmen Sandiego, like I said, it's weird. It asks weird questions and stuff like that. It kind of expects you to know some Japanese stuff because there's like questions that get asked of you and you have like a multiple choice answer. And he was just like, what's this now? It's just the strangest thing. I got this off of Nintendo Hodge from the Cartridge Club. before COVID, the Cartridge Club, before they kind of like started losing members, they were doing like Cartridge Club conventions. And one of them came to Chicago, and I went and hung out with them for like an hour or two. I think it was maybe like an hour and a half I was there. And they were just recording like a bunch of the podcasts that the individual members are parts of, and they were just doing live versions of it there. But Hodge had reached out, and he was like, hey, if anybody's interested in like trading or buying games, I have a whole stack of stuff. And I bought a whole bunch of stuff off of him, and this was one of the games I got. So super thrilled, because I remember I used to play a version of this on my dad's computer back in the day, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Here's another import that I got during that whole import craze, and it's Star Wars, and this is a port of the NES version. The only thing is, I think this one plays a little bit better. The controls, I always thought, were very loose on the NES one, and this one, while the graphics and the music and everything is a little bit different, I think it sounds a little bit better on this than on the NES version. But the controls, I think, are definitely better on this one. Like, the gameplay has been tweaked slightly. But this never came out over here in the States. This is a British one. You can tell. So I had to get a copy of that because Star Wars. Why not? Here is, it's not a repro, it's not a hack, it's a brand new game for the Master System. And this came out in 2019. From Collector Vision Games. That's Gamester 81's video game company. And it is his like flagship character. They've made games with this character for I think every freaking console out there, including like the Intellivision. That's Sidney Hunter, the Sacred Tribe. It's like their flagship character. He's like an Indiana Jones knockoff. And it's a platform adventure game. And it is actually quite fun. I actually have another one for the Super Nintendo. And like I said, they've made games in this series for every console out there. And it's pretty cool. Comes with a manual and everything, which made me super happy. So whenever, I think the reason I bought this version of it was Gamester 81, I follow him on Facebook, and he had posted something saying, hey, there's limited copies of this left, and once it's gone, it's gone. Plus, we're discounting it. So I was like, shit, take me there. And I got it for, I think, like $30 or something like that. So, yeah, why not? Brand new game for the Master System in 2019. Why not? But I actually got that last year, I think. Here's another import. Had to have this because I love the license, and it's a licensed game, and that is the Terminator. Had to have this. It is a port of the Genesis game, like a downgraded port. It's not too bad. The Genesis game is definitely better in the way of graphics and sound and gameplay, but it basically is the exact same game. It just doesn't look as good, sound as good, play as good. But it's still the Terminator, and the Terminator for the Genesis is pretty awesome. So I absolutely had to have this. This is another British release. Had to have that. Absolutely. The original Thunderblade, a port of an arcade classic that I used to play at Showbiz Pizza all the time. Only one I'm really missing is the original Afterburner. I think. Yeah, I don't have Afterburner. Otherwise I would have talked about it already, huh? Logic. Yeah, I don't have Afterburner. I need to look that up. But yeah, Thunderblade is a vertically scrolling shmup, and it's an auto-scroll, and you're playing as a chopper, and you're taking out not only other aerial craft, but also stuff on the ground with like a like a bomb. And it's fun. It's definitely downgraded from the arcade. Super Thunderblade, or what was it? Maybe it was Thunderblade 2, whatever, is like looking at behind the chopper, and it's like a 3D game, and that one's actually pretty badass. I think that's the one that's out on the Genesis. But this one's pretty awesome, although it's kind of basic. My friend Jason, Intel, he's a DJ. He's been on my podcast, Movie Starting, I think the most out of anybody that we've ever had. When I posted the picture that I bought this, he goes, that is my childhood, like right there. And that is Time Soldiers. This is an Ikari Warriors style game where it's like a top-down, vertically scrolling run and gun. But you're going through different time periods. And I remember seeing I think this was based on an arcade game, because I remember seeing something that, I thought I saw this in the arcade at Great America at Six Flags. I could be thinking of something else, but I wanted it because it looked like a cool game, and that's one of the few Master System games that has a pretty rad cover. But the game itself is pretty awesome. I like it a lot. This one pissed me off. Not because the game is bad, it's because of I got lied to on eBay when I bought this. But this was the only Sega card game that my uncle had. I think it's because it came with the console when my uncle bought it, and that is Transbot. I was a huge Transformers fan as a little kid. I was obsessed with that Saturday morning cartoon, the toys, the comic books, everything. So when I saw Transbot, I immediately was like, yeah, we're finally getting a Transformers game. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, no. No. You do transform, though. I will say that. And what it is a side-scrolling shmup where you play as this robot and you can eventually transform into like a jet and you can move faster for the side-scrolling levels, and eventually you're going to fight bosses and everything like that. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot. The only thing was when I bought it, the guy didn't show the complete package that this was in. So normally it comes in this like thinner package and it's a little beat up, you can see. But what he didn't show me on the back was that the entire bottom part of the cover is missing. Ain't that some bullshit? So I was super pissed. I sent the guy like a message. I'm like, hey, like what the hell? You didn't say anything about this? He's like, sorry. And basically blocked me on eBay. But even the top is a little torn up. But you can see that you fight an ATSD. That's cool, right? Well, once I got past it, I was like, the game is fine. The game works just fine. I can play it. Although it didn't come in like a little protector. The guy put it in like an old Ziploc bag, you douche. Whatever. I probably will look for a different copy of this at some point so I can get one that actually looks good. And here's an absolute classic that I found randomly at my old half-price books, the one that I used to go to by my work all the time, where I used to find all of my retro stuff for the longest time, and now they suck because COVID basically, I don't think anybody sells games to them anymore. Their game system or their game section just keeps shrinking. But there was a time where I was finding awesome stuff there every single time I would go. And one time I found Wonder Boy out of nowhere. I used to play the arcade game of this all the time at Showbiz Pizza. I remember the first time I played it was one of my friend's birthday parties, and it was like 1982 or 3, I think. I want to say it was 1982. Or whatever. It's a platformer, and it's really, really fun. I liked it a lot. And never realized, well, since I didn't have a Master System, I didn't realize that it was going to come out on this console. But then a few years later, we get a Nintendo. My brother gets a copy of Hudson's Adventure Island, and I'm like, wait a minute. I've played this game before. And then I realized it was Wonder Boy. And Hudson had basically licensed Wonder Boy, slapped their character, Master Higgins, in place of Wonder Boy into the game, and called it a day. So eventually I did get a copy of Wonder Boy on a home console that I could play. It just wasn't called Wonder Boy. But here's the genuine article. And it's a pretty decent port of Wonder Boy. I want to see Cap stream this and compare it to Hudson's Adventure Island and see which one he likes more, because they're essentially the exact same game. But it's a really cool platformer. I liked it a lot. Super cool. And it's a classic. And that leads to Wonder Boy 3, The Dragon's Trap. I got this at the Exchange, I think. Yeah, I got this at the Exchange because I'd sold them a bunch of stuff on my birthday. And you get a discount on your birthday at the Exchange if you have an account with them. They have like a card where you can build up points. And like every time you buy stuff there, it like builds up more money on your card. And then eventually you can spend what's on that card toward purchases, which is what I'm going to do this year when I go for my birthday. I'll probably buy a few things and then spend all the money because I've been building stuff up on that card for like years. But I remember I found this there, and it is complete. This did get a port, like a remastered port to like this PlayStation 4. But this one isn't like a standard platformer like the original Wonder Boy is. This one is kind of like in a side-scrolling adventure, light RPG game. Yeah, that's what this one is. Yes. This is the one where you can like turn into different creatures and stuff like that while you're playing. And each one has a different play style. It's pretty cool. I did play the one on the PS4, like the remaster. But then there's also Wonder Boy in Monsterland, and I think I got this at Freak Toys when I had all that credit. They had this there too. And I think this is considered Wonder Boy 2. So there's Wonder Boy in Monsterland, and then Wonder Boy 3. And then there's, what is it, Monsterland 4, which is on the Genesis? It's weird timeline stuff, but whatever. Yeah, this one is more of like a side-scrolling adventure game and not a platformer. It still has platforming stuff, but it's closer to what the Dragon's Trap is than the original game. But you're still playing as Wonder Boy. It's still pretty fun. Another one that I was really stoked to get a copy of that was complete. And here's a absolute classic. Got Ys, The Vanished Omens. This is the original Ys game. Had no clue that this came out on the Master System until, I think I found this on eBay. And it was really, really cheap, too. And I was like, well, the Ys games are usually pretty expensive. I was completely shocked to find this. So it's an action RPG, but instead of like swinging a sword like you would in Zelda, you basically just run into the enemies. And it's like rolling the dice every time you run into an enemy. Like, if your attack is greater than his defense, you score a hit. Or he could score a hit back on you because he's running towards you, too. And it's a weird fight system, but it works, and it's actually pretty fun. Especially, like, in the TurboGrafx CD game. But, ooh, it's pretty cool. I was super happy to get a copy of this. And it's the US version of it on the Master System. So, yeah. And then we got these two. It's the first game and second game in the series. We got Zillion and Zillion 2, the Tri-Formation. These two are also games that my buddy Jason, the Intel, was like, that's my childhood right there. He used to play these all the time. So Zillion is like a side-scrolling platforming adventure game. You're like, you've broken into like this it's a sci-fi game. You've broken into this installation. You need to like hack into these computers and get information. And there's enemies around that you can kung fu and shoot at and whatever. And I remember, it's been a while since I played it. It's really hard and it's kind of cryptic at times, but it's pretty fun. And then part 2, it kind of goes off the rails. And it's like part what this game is and also part shmup, because all of a sudden there's like vehicle levels and they go really, really fast. And it's hard to, it's kind of like Battletoads almost, like the cave level in the Battletoads that everyone complains about. But those levels are super hard because, like I said, everything scrolls by so fast. But it's not a bad game. I like it a lot. So the final 2 games that I have for the Sega Master System. So now we can move on to the Sega, or sorry, not Sega. Let me take a drink. Hey, Petey, you still there? Next up is my Famicom Disk System games. Boy. Okay, so these I'm going to definitely need my phone to show off the titles. Because, there you go, Family Disk System. Disk System, there we go. Starting off with Arumana no Kaseki. This is a Konami joint. It's a action platformer where he plays this Indiana Jones style guy who is, I don't remember what the point really is. You're just trying to get from point A to point B, if I remember correctly. You have like a gun, you have like a whip, but the thing about it is the game is very vertical. And the only way you can ascend is by, what's up, Tiger Chainsaw? Yeah, Zillion is better than Zillion 2, I will admit. Yeah, the thing about this is when you want to ascend, it's like you plant this gigantic wooden post in the ground and you fire a rope diagonally to a platform above that you can climb up. You can use that. You can climb up that rope to get to the next platform. But where do you keep this giant post that's as big as your sprite? I don't know. Like, just pulls it out of his ass. But the game is really fun. There was somebody ported a Disk System game to like a repro cartridge. I don't know how it happened because the Renaissance streamed it on Twitch one time, and I was like, you have a card of this? I'm like, how did that happen? Then again, certain games for the Famicom Disk System were ported to the US officially onto a cart. You'll see a couple of them here. You'll be surprised to find out which ones started off on a disc. But this game is really fun. It does get a little unfair at times because there's certain platforms you need to ascend to that has like enemies on it that you can't avoid, and you get knocked back when you get hit in this game. So you'll ascend, you'll climb up the rope, get hit, knocked back down to that platform, and it's just like this vicious cycle that you can't avoid, and it's kind of shitty. But it's an awesome game. I can't remember which direction I had these in. Next up is a text game called Dead Zone from Sunsoft. And I got this like dirt cheap off of eBay for, I think I got this for like $8 or something, which is why I bought it, not realizing that it was like a game that I honestly can't get a translation patch for because nothing plays disk system games except a disk system, which you can see right behind me right there is my Sharp Twin Famicom that plays Famicom games on this side, and the disk port is right there. I love that thing. It's so cool, except for the fact that the controllers are hardwired into it, and you can't really do anything about it. So the wires are like this long, and I basically have to like sit on the floor in front of my television like I'm 3 years old again, playing the Atari, like looking up at the screen, like because these controllers have no reach. It's stupid. But yeah, Dead Zone is like a visual novel type game that I really can't play, but it looks and sounds cool. The music on these disk system games is pretty fantastic. Next up is Esper Dream, which I think is an RPG. And there's a sequel to this out there too that I should probably track down, but like I said, I really can't play it because I don't read Japanese. Maybe I should learn. That would help. It's a hard language to learn from what I understand. I'm willing to give it a shot, though. Why not? I can play more games. But yeah, I got this dirt cheap also off of eBay. I think I was sitting at an airport with my mother when we were going to LA to visit my brother. And I was sitting at some restaurant at the airport waiting for our flight. And I was like, I'm going to order some games. Oh, look, there's a disk system game that's super cheap. Why not? And I did it and can't play it. Whatevs. This one I can play. And I talked about this on John Riggs' channel. He did a video that he wanted. He knew that I liked the disk system, and not many other people he knew were really into it, or at least had games, a lot of games they can talk about. So like he was like, "Oh, I know you're into the Famicom Disk System. You want to do like a collab on my channel talking about like your favorite games?" He's like, "I'll talk about 5 and you talk about 5." And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I talked about Falcion, which is another Konami joint, and this is a shmup where it's kind of like playing Gyrus. I guess the way it's a shmup where like enemies are coming towards you, but it's like in a 3/4 view, and you kind of move around the bottom of the screen like this arc, and you can shoot them as they come toward you. I guess the biggest thing I compare this to is like other than Gyrus is like Sylpheed. I guess it's really fun. I like it a lot, which is why I talked about it on his channel. It's a game that I wish got a port to the U.S. and we could have played it back then. But now there's 2 games in this series. I've got both. Yep. F1 Race and F1 or Famicom Grand Prix. Sorry, Famicom Grand Prix F1 Race and Famicom Grand Prix 2 3D Hot Rally. This one actually has like the discs normally for the disk system are yellow. You can kind of see it up there. These are blue because Nintendo can do whatever the hell they want. F1 Race is a very basic pole position style racing game. No frills. It's very generic. Doesn't have great sound, great music, or anything like that. Like I said, it was like almost like a first generation game that I guess it was like a tech demo. What it feels like when you play this on the disk system. It got a port to the Game Boy that looks and plays almost exactly the same. Not very impressive, to say the least. Then they released Part 2. Where it's like you're in a dune buggy and you're jumping all over the place, and it's like playing a real racing game. And this one is super fun. And the only reason I knew about this was, what was it, Video Mark? CGR, Classic Game Room. Mark from Classic Game Room randomly did a review of this game, and that was when I really got interested in the Famicom Disk System, because he had a black Sharp Twin Famicom like I have, but mine's red, his was black. And he was like, "Oh, I can finally delve into all these Famicom Disk System games. How awesome is that? It's a whole new console I can explore." And I was like, "I want to do it too." So I looked into getting a console, got one, and got this. This is, I think, the first game that I bought for it. And you know what? It is super fun. If you're into racing games, that one is the one to have for the console. And then we've got these. These got names that I'm going to butcher a lot. So it's a 2-part game, kind of like the way Pokemon was. Like you can only do certain things in Pokemon Red and do certain things in Pokemon Blue. Same thing here. So this one is called Famicom Mukashi Banashi Yuyuki Kohen. And then the other one is Famicom Mukashi Banashi Yuyuki Zenpen. These are based on the Journey to the West book that everyone has turned into video games, movies, whatever. It's like one of the most copied things out there. Even Enslaved on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 is based on Journey to the West. But these are like Legend of Zelda style adventure games, and like I said, you can only do certain things in one compared to the other. And it's weird, but I got them both at the same time dirt cheap, so I wasn't going to complain, even though I don't really know what's going on in them. That's sad. Nobody's watching anymore. Nobody likes me. And then there's this series. I ended up getting both of them. I think there's only the two. I could have sworn there was three. No, there's only two. Yes. Yeah, there's only 2 games in the series. Okay. So the first one is Foon Shurinken. Foon has 3 U's in it. So take fun, add 2 more U's in it, and you have Foon Shurinken. And you have the sequel, Foon Shurinken and Koku no Mao. These are like beat-em-ups. Really cool ones. They were super popular in Japan, apparently, because now I have a collection of these games for the PlayStation 4. So that's kind of awesome. I got these also dirt-ass cheap from that guy I was talking about when I was on the Famicom games, when I was talking about the Castlevania 3. I got these from that guy. He sells this stuff like really decent prices with fair shipping that's fast. Like the shipping's only $5. And he has a lot of great stuff to choose from. I don't know where he's getting this stuff. Garage sales or something? I don't know, because it can't be from his own personal collection. But whatever. Gotta put these like this. Next up is Gal Force. I talked a bit about this one on John Riggs' channel. This is a shmup, a vertically scrolling shmup that's pretty cool. You start off with one character, and your ship has 3 modules, I guess. You have like the main centerpiece, and your wing on each side is another module. And you can take 3 hits. You can take the first hit will destroy one wing, second hit will destroy the other wing, and then you just have your centerpiece, and once that gets hit, you're destroyed. The thing is, at the end of each level, when you beat a boss, you unlock a new character, and that new character adds a new weapon to your ship. So you start off with a generic like pea shooter. Second, you beat the first boss, and now I think you have like a wave gun or something. And each new person you unlock when you beat a boss gives you a new weapon or new add-on to your ship, which is a pretty cool concept, I think. And yeah, I talked about this one on John Riggs' channel, and he basically agreed with me. He goes, yeah, when it comes to shmups on the Master System, the Famicom Disk System, this one's a winner. Almost dropped it. So I was talking about games that originated on the Famicom Disk System in Japan, but when they were brought over to the States, it was on a cartridge. The disk system can hold more information than the cartridges could, meaning that the music was usually better. Some of the graphics, some of the animations were better. So right here I got Hikari Shinwa Palutena no Kagami. In the US, this is Kid Icarus. So this game originated on the disk system in Japan and was ported over to a cartridge for the US. In the port, or because of the port, the music had to get downgraded. I booted this up the day it showed up. I got this off of eBay really, really cheap. This is actually kind of a pricey game for a disk system game. I almost said Master System again. For a disk system game, this is actually pretty pricey, but it's definitely a hell of a lot cheaper than getting a complete in-box version on cartridge. So I booted it up, and the music sounds so much better. There's like more channels. It sounds like peppier, I guess. So I was super thrilled that I was able to find this copy, and it plays exactly the same. The sounds that the Grim Reapers make when you alert them sounds completely different in this version, but it's super fun. I've always liked Kid Icarus, the game, so I was very happy to get the OG version. And then we've got one this one John Riggs turned me on to in that video that I did with him on his channel, and that is Maikyu Jin Dababa. And it sounds stupid, but you're playing as this little monk kid who looks kind of like Aang from, or Aang. Is it Aang? Yeah, Aang. Aang is the one from the shitty movie. Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And the only thing you do for movement is you jump. You're like jumping all over the place, kind of like your character does in Star Tropics when you're in the dungeon areas where you're hopping on those blocks. That's all you do is hop around. You don't walk, you hop everywhere you go. And you're punching enemies and stuff like that. It's like a top-down beat-em-up, I guess. It's actually pretty fun. I like this one a lot. I like the way John Riggs was talking about it. And the footage he showed made it look super fun, and I managed to track down a copy before it ratcheted up in price because he talked about it in the video. Because he told me which games he was going to talk about beforehand. Here's another one that started off on the disk system before getting ported to the cartridge in the US, and that is Metroid. I found this with Captain Algebra at the exchange. Cap was buying some games. I was buying some games. They usually keep the cool stuff behind the counter. And I walk up with my purchases, and I just happened to glance over while the guy was picking up all of my stuff, because a lot of the stuff that I had gotten from their cases, they keep behind the counter until you're ready to check out. The guy turned around to grab my stuff, and I just happened to glance off to the side, and I saw a Famicom disc. It was a Famicom, a boxed Famicom Disk System. This was the add-on to the original Famicom, and like 5 Famicom Disk System games on top of it. And I went like, ooh! I never see those in a while, even at a convention. I rarely see them there. And they had Metroid, and I was trying to get all the versions of Metroid out there. Every version of Metroid available on a console. I wanted to have it. I wanted to get the complete set. And they had this up there. And I was like, oh, how much are you asking for that Metroid on the Disk System? And the guy was like, yeah, well, the thing about that is we're trying to sell the Famicom, the Disk System, and all those games together as a bundle. And I was like, I really want that Metroid. I'm like, I don't want this. I don't want the Famicom. I don't want the Disk System. I don't want any of those other games. I just want that Metroid. Please sell it to me. And the guy went like, okay. So he looks it up online to see what it's going for, and he was like, $50. And I go, how about 40? And this is like at a store. They don't really barter. I was like, how about 40? He goes, all right. I think, or 45. And he was like, all right. And I ended up getting a copy of it. And the same thing that I said about Kid Icarus on the Disk System goes here. The music is the same, yet different, better. It sounds a hell of a lot better on the Disk System. Like I said, there's more channels of sound on these things. They can hold more memory. It's fantastic. And it's the same old game you know, just now it's in Japanese. I wonder how I'm going to enter the what was it, the Justin Bailey code, if it's in Japanese, to get to play as Samus, not in the armor. I don't know. I'm sad now. But I do have Metroid on cart, so it's not a big loss. This one is the one that disappointed me, I think, the most. So I watched a lot of British retro gaming channels on YouTube, one of which is Kim Justice. And she talks a lot about the ZX Spectrum or the ZX Spectrum, the Amstrad, the Commodore 64 and the Amiga, like all the microcomputers that were really super popular overseas in the UK. And she talked a lot about this game in one video, and I was like, I've never heard of that. I would like to be able to play that at some point. Found out that it was available on the Famicom Disk System, and I found a copy dirt cheap on the interwebs. And that is called Monty on the Run. And it's like a puzzle platformer that, now that I think about it, she really didn't explain all that well when she was describing it. She was just like, yeah, it's a fun game. If you get a chance to play it, kind of play it. And that was the way that she did. So when I found it, I was like, oh, I can finally try that out. And when I tried it out, I was like, this game doesn't make any fucking sense. It's kind of crappy. So I was really disappointed. Like I said, it's like a side-scrolling platform puzzler, and it's just one of those things where, kind of like playing an Atari 2600 game where you don't know what you're looking at half the time or what you're supposed to be doing. So I need to read the manual in order to play this properly. Well, the manual's in Japanese, so yeah. Shit. I didn't pay much for it. I got it from that guy that I've been talking about that sells stuff from Japan that I get for really good prices, like this. This is Nazo no Murasamijo, or Musamiju. I think it's Musamiju, J-O-U, Musamiju. Also known as the Mysterious Murasame Castle, I think, if you translate it. And I had downloaded this from the eShop on my 3DS, and I did not realize it was a Disk System game. I was like, oh, it's an import NES game, like a Famicom game I never got to play, not realizing it was a Disk System game. So when I got into collecting for the Disk System, and I found that this was a Disk System game, I was like, yes, must have it, because it was actually pretty fun. It's like playing Legend of Zelda, but you're a samurai. and you're trying to infiltrate this castle, and once you get inside, it's like playing like a dungeon of Zelda. It's pretty fun. It's a little confusing, a little long, and plus it's all in Japanese, so the only way I'm going to be able to play this and know what the fuck is going on is by playing the version I have on my 3DS, which I think I still do have it on my 3DS. Hey, yeah. Next up is the classic that we never got, and that is Super Mario Bros. 2. The version that was deemed way too hard for us here in America because we're all a bunch of pussies. So Mario Bros. 2 in Japan, excuse me, got the burpees, was exactly like playing the original Super Mario Bros. The only difference was the levels were a lot harder, and now there was a mushroom that would downgrade your character. I'm glad you have so many games. My grandma called and I was able to join back. Oh, no problem, dude. You know me. These streams go on forever. My voice, on the other hand, does not. My throat is so scratchy right now. I'm surprised I'm still making sound. But yeah, in Japan, Mario 2 was just like the original Super Mario Brothers, but there was a there was a mushroom that would downgrade your character. So if you were the big Mario, this would turn you back into little Mario if you would find it. And it was like super, super difficult to the point where when the time came for Nintendo of America to get the import or to bring it over to our shores, they were like, no, this is going to anger so many kids because it is so difficult because like we can't handle a challenge. Have you never played a Nintendo game, Nintendo? All your games are hard. What the hell? So instead they decided to turn another game that is completely unrelated to Mario into Mario Bros. 2 for the US, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. Wink, 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 wink. I'm not having a stroke. Wink, wink. But yeah, this game is super hard. It is a very difficult version of Super Mario Brothers. It's like this came out through, Super Mario All-Stars as Super Mario Brothers The Lost Levels. And even there, I was like, what the hell? Yeah, they were not kidding when they said that this was difficult. It's almost like you have to learn a whole new skill set to play that game because of that downgrade mushroom and the way the enemies now move. It's really, really hard. But doesn't mean it's not fun. It is. I love a good challenge. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, damn. But yeah, the only way you can get this in Japan is on the Disk System. So that was the thing. This is a 3-game series that I got here. And it's for a license that I absolutely love. When I was a little kid, we're talking like kindergarten, I'd come home, like kindergarten ended at noon, and I'd get home at like 12:15, 12:30. The local UHF station had like this block of programming that would start at like 12, so I'd always miss, I want to say it was like the Addams Family or the Munsters or something. But I would get home in time to see Lancelot Link, the chimpanzee that was dressed like a detective. He was like a private detective. Yeah. The Monkeys, like the band, they had their show. I would see the Monkeys, and I would see Ultraman. Ultraman was a Japanese, like, kaiju-style show where this regular Japanese guy would do this weird symbol thing with his hand, and he would grow to, like, the size of a skyscraper so he could fight big kaiju baddies that were threatening Japan. And I used to love it. I loved it so much. I wanted, like, toys, but we didn't get any because it was a Japanese show. And I did not realize that in Japan, Ultraman was a huge thing. There was games, toys. It was a, like, kaiju sensation before Power Rangers. And 3 games were released for the Famicom Disk System, and I have all 3. So I'm going to butcher these names horribly also. So we have the first one, which is called Ultraman Kaiju Taikoku no Gyakushu. There's 2 U's at the end, so it's a ooh, I guess. I'm making that rule up. My nose is itchy. Not having a stroke again. This is a side-scrolling platformer / beat 'em up. You start off as little non-kaiju guy, like the Japanese guy. You have to find these. There's like kaiju things running around. You really can't do anything about it. You have to like find these stars in the level, and once you collect so many of them, then you can morph into Ultraman. Now you can start fighting the bad guys. It's kind of a cool mechanic that you have to avoid the things until you can actually take them on as Ultraman. But it's just really basic. It feels like a very early game for the console, so I say don't expect too much. And then we've got the next game, which is Ultraman 2 Shutsugeki Kitoku Tai, which is pretty much the same thing, but done better. It's another side-scrolling beat-em-up where you're playing as little guy turning into Ultraman. It's really fun. I like this one a lot more than the first. It was also significantly more expensive than the first. But when has that ever been an issue for me? You guys saw how much money I spent at Mo GameCon. Shit! And then we have the third game, which is the one that I have not tried yet. And this is Ultraman Club Chikyu Daken Sakusen. And this one is like the super deformed version of the character, but it's not just regular-ass Ultraman. Ultraman also went through phases like the Power Rangers, whereas like you've got regular Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, then you've got Space, then you've got Dino Force or whatever, and then you've got, you know, Lightspeed Rescue. There's like different variations. Well, there's also been a ton of different types of Ultraman, so you can see them all down there, and at some point in the game, you get to swap between these characters, which I thought sounded really cool, so I picked it up. Haven't had a chance to play yet. I just never tested it. Probably should, because these disc things are fragile. And then the last game I have to talk about tonight is also my favorite. And this is the game we got over here in the US as Super Mario Bros. 2. In Japan, this was known as Yume Kuju Doki Doki Panic. And basically, this was like released as a sort of promotion for, what was it? FCI. These are characters that belong to FCI, and Nintendo licensed them to make a game about them. And everything you know from Mario Bros. 2 is in here, but here it's slightly different. Midwest Media Show, what's going on? What's up? Yeah, so in Mario Bros. 2, at the beginning of each stage, you get the choice of which character you want to play as. You have Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Princess. Here, you pick what character you want at the beginning of the game, and you are stuck with them the rest of the damn game. The characters all do the same thing that they do in Mario Brothers. One person is Mario, where they're all around, pretty decent. Then you get the one that jumps really high. Then you get the one that pulls the items out of the ground really, really fast, like Toad. And then you get the one that kind of floats, like Princess Peach. The only thing is, like I said, you're stuck playing as that character for the whole game. But the only way you can actually beat this game is if you beat the game with every single character. So you have to play through this game 4 different times to get the real ending, which is stupid. That's why I like Mario Bros. 2 more, because you can alternate between the characters. Each stage can sort of, you can play through a stage better with a different character. Like, I don't want to play as Mario the whole game. This stage, I seem to play better as Toad. This one I play because Toad digs things fast. Those levels where you got to dig through the sand, Toad is like, he's fucking dig dug, bro. Yeah, it's kind of shitty that you get stuck playing as some like character like Princess Peach or the Princess Peach character. I don't know their names in this. The whole game is kind of shitty, but everything you know from Mario Bros. 2 is in here. The characters, the enemies, Birdo, all that shit. It's all in here. What was it? Wart. Yeah, you can see him on the cover in the back. Yeah, it's all in here. The Shy Guys. It's just different characters you're playing as. I will say that I think the Mario Bros. 2 version of this is the superior version of these two games. But this is also worth playing because of how it's different yet the same. I'm not sad that I own it. It's actually pretty cool. I like that. And I like Mario Bros. 2. Mario Bros. 2 is my favorite of the 3 Nintendo Mario Bros. Games. So having that as like a side thing that is attached to the series but yet not, I think it's pretty awesome. So that's it for tonight. This is actually a pretty short stream for me. Last week I was just talking about Atari 2600 games and I was talking for 3 goddamn hours. So the fact that I talked about 4 consoles of things and I only did it in just over 2, wow. And that was also including the difficulties I had at the beginning with the camera. So I will be back next Thursday with another one of these streams. It will probably be broken up into 2 parts because it will definitely be about the NES. And I have so many NES games that I might have to break it up into 3 parts. I think I might have to break it up into 3 different sections. Yikes. I hope you're okay with that. I don't want to lose my damn voice. You want to start over? Oh, sure. Hang on a second. Not like I'm losing my voice already. Let's just get to the point where I talk like this. So yeah, next Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, I'll be doing the first of the NES streams. And yeah. Gonna have a really cool pickup stream at the end of the month because in 2 weeks, it's gonna be me, Rocket Sauce from the Cartridge Club, Captain Algebra, and Tiger Chainsaw going out for my birthday, retro game hunting throughout Wisconsin. If anyone wants to join us that lives in the area, like Midwest Media Show, we're going on a Saturday. If you want to come up to Chicago and hang out, and we're going to go to Milwaukee and hang out in Wisconsin, go looking for games, let me know. It's going to be a thing. So that's going to be an awesome pickup stream at the end of the month. I'm also going to start doing little, what do they call them? Like the shorts that you see people doing on YouTube now and on Instagram and on Facebook where, you know, it's like the vertical shaped thing that everyone's been doing lately. I might start doing little ones while I'm at work when I'm bored, talking about game stuff, and we'll see how that works out. But until next Thursday for the first of the NES streams, thank you everybody for coming and hanging out with us, or hanging out with us. Well, us. There's multiple people here in the stream hanging out with me also, and chatting with me while I'm struggling because I'm so damn tired. My mouth does not want to work. I will see you all next week, hopefully. Stay safe out there. Have a good evening, and I will talk to you later. Oh, yeah, and stick around because Peter made this music for truth. Gotcha!